What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Got Next podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Baldwin, with my co-host, Donovan Moore.
We back at it, man. Another week.
We back at it. Ben and Nate, how you feeling, man? Regular on the show.
Man, I'm feeling good. I'm excited to get back to it. Hopefully, week 4 is going to be as entertaining as week 2 and 3 were.
Yeah, absolutely. But today, as usual, we're going through every game in week 4, picking all the winners and losers. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff. And without further ado, let's get into the intro.
You ready to play, boy?
Yo, turn it up, Slay. I can't hear nothing.
All right, we got a lot of games to get to this week, so let's get right into it. We're going to start out with the Dolphins and the Bengals, which is about to start in a few minutes here if it already hasn't started. So, B, you can go ahead and start us off for this week.
Oh, I have no idea what's going on in the game right now. My Amazon Prime is not on, so I am picking the Dolphins. They impressed me by beating the Bills. I could totally see them losing this game too because, like I said, I don't think they're better than the Bills. I honestly don't think they're better than the Ravens either, but they've gotten off to a hot start. Bengals, as we all expected, finally got a win last week against the Jets, but obviously battle of the QBs of class of 2020 between Tua and Joe Burrow. I think they might both show out tonight. But I'm rolling with Tua tonight in the Dolphins.
I'm taking the Bengals. I got the text messages to prove it. I texted this man Bennett at like 7:45, 7:30. I got the Bengals. I'm sticking with my pick, Jamar Chase. The Ravens ran amok on the Dolphins. They just let the game slip up late, and the Bengals got that same type of weaponry, so I'm going with the Bengals.
Before I say anything else, B, did you count up the wins for last week?
I not do it this week. I'll update us next week with the last 2 weeks.
Okay. Cool.
My apologies, fellas.
Nah, you're all good. I got Dolphins as well. The Bengals are struggling this year so far. I mean, I can definitely see the Dolphins losing, but Tua's been really good so far. And I mean, wasn't Tyreek Hill talking trash to Eli Apple or something like that?
Oh yeah.
But I also saw that the Dolphins practice footage got leaked. So I mean, I can kind of see it going either way. But I'm gonna rock with the Dolphins for this week. So next up, we got the Vikings and the Saints starting at 9:30 over in London. Do you think that, traveling or anything is going to affect this game? Who do you guys got?
Well, I mean, both teams got to do the traveling, so I feel like it'll equally affect both of them. I feel like, we all know what Kirk Cousins is like in the PM, but maybe he'll be nice in the AM. I'm rolling with the Vikings in this one. The Saints, I've seen too much sub-mid from Jameis Winston, and Kirk Cousins I see more mid-mid and upper mid sometimes. So I know it's a funny way to put it, but if you look at the weaponry here, I definitely think it gives an advantage to the Vikings. And it looks like they're finally starting to get a defense again for the first time in a while since they've had Kirk Cousins, honestly. So maybe they'll put less pressure on him. Saints, they lost to the Panthers last week. They're having issues, man, and I don't see where it gets better here. You got the Vikings.
Yeah, the last time I seen Kirk Cousins play in London, man, it was not great. The Redskins tied with the Bengals. I'm going with the Saints. Jameis is one of those inconsistent quarterbacks since he's had 2 down games in a row, but I feel like this is the game where he'll bounce back. And the Saints are in need of a win. They lost 2 straight, and they've been pretty consistent the last 10 years, to be honest, just of being a decent to solid team. So I think they'll beat the Vikings. And I think Dalvin Cook might be out as well. So I'm going with the Saints in this one.
This is definitely a hard one to pick. I'm going to rock with the Vikings after what I saw from the Saints last week. The Saints were abominable. Not only did they lose to the Panthers, they looked horrible in that effort. It wasn't really much of a fight put up. It was kind of disgusting, to be honest with you. They had Baker Mayfield out there looking like a Pro Bowler. He looked amazing out there, throwing dots all over the field. It's disgusting. I was very pissed off watching that game. So I am not going to bet on them after what I saw. I'm rocking with the Vikings. I like their weapons, and Justin Jefferson is definitely looking to bounce back after a couple, mid to subpar weeks in a row here. So next up, we got the Seahawks and the Lions. This is the battle of mid. One of the many battles of mid probably for this week. B, who you got?
This is a tough one right here. So the Seahawks dropped to the Falcons at home last week, while the Lions, blew a lead against the Vikings on the road. But they showed resilience, by competing in that game. I'd say the Lions definitely look like a better team, but I'm actually going to go with the Seahawks in this one. I just think, the Seahawks should be that type of team that by the end of the year they might have a losing record, but their coaching will have him win some games that maybe they're not supposed to win. This could be one of them. So I think they'll compete hard and win this game.
I'm actually going to take the Lions. I feel like these two teams are even in terms of they played hard from the first quarter to the fourth. They'll fight for their coaches, but I feel like the Lions have better weapons and they're just a better overall team and further along in their rebuilding process than the Seahawks are. So I'm definitely going to take the Lions in this one. They compete just against everybody, and it's really great and refreshing to see. So I feel like the Seahawks are one of those teams that they're clearly better than, one of the few teams they're clearly better than. So I'm going to go with the Lions.
Like what Dono said about the Lions being further along in their rebuild process. I definitely agree with that. So I'm going to rock with the Lions as well. The Seahawks, while they have weapons, I mean, it doesn't really seem like they're doing very much this year. I mean, if DeAndre Swift plays, then maybe that'll change some things. But as of right now, I'm not really sure if he'll be playing. So, but ultimately, still going with the Lions. I mean, I don't know. This is definitely a hard pick for sure. Rocking with the Lions, I can see it going either way. Next up, another battle of mid here. We got the Steelers and the Jets. B, this is your team, and you're actually your first anyway, so that works out. Go ahead, B.
Oh, man, for the first time this year, I'm going to pick the Steelers only because if they lose this game, this might be a disastrous season. Obviously, Mitchell Trubisky's still playing quarterback right now. Win or lose, he's probably still going to be the quarterback for them because their next two games are against the Bills and Bucks, and I don't think they want to shatter Kenny Pickett's confidence against two Super Bowl caliber teams. So probably Mitch's job for a while longer. Hoping he can pull out a dub here. It's going to be Zach Wilson's first start of the season. Hopefully he'll be rusty for that reason. The Steelers, obviously are not the same defense without T.J. Watt, but Alex Highsmith is actually leading the league in sacks. So, I mean, maybe that's one positive, but they definitely need to play better on both sides of the football. I think against a team like the Jets at home, they'll be given the opportunity to do just that, and hopefully they take advantage of it.
I'm going to take the Steelers as well. Mike Tomlin is just a very, very great coach. We talk about that a lot on here every time we talk football. And honestly, they could have beat the Browns. It's rare you see the Steelers out of a game. No matter who the team is, they're never out of a game. They're always in. And I think against the Jets, even though the Jets may have more offensive – I wouldn't say more offensive talent. I don't know who's the better quarterback between Zach Wilson and Trubisky, but Zach Wilson's more exciting, I guess. But I'll still go with the Steelers in this one. They're just well coached. I'm just going with the Steelers based off the coach because the quarterback is not it.
Is Zach Wilson back this week?
Yeah, he'll be making his debut.
Okay, cool. I didn't even know that. I'm gonna go with the Jets. Rocking with the Jets. It took a while to come out because I don't know the Steelers. I don't really like what they have as far as weapons. I mean, Chase Claypool is decent sometimes. Sometimes he shows up. A lot of times he doesn't show up. Most of the time,
He doesn't.
Most of the time I feel like he doesn't show up. The Jets, Garrett Wilson has looked really good. I think that was a lot of our picks for Offensive Player of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, excuse me. And I think B actually picked Kenny for that one. So it's not looking too hot so far for B. But I like what the Jets have. Of course, they have him. They have – who's the other guy? Breece Hall. Breece Hall, of course, he's looking pretty good. He's getting more touches and stuff like that. Michael Carter is always solid. And I think that they're going to probably rally around the fact that Zach Wilson's back. A little bit more confidence within the team, not having Joe Flacco back there. So I'm going to rock with the Jets. Probably going to get it wrong, and I can't really afford too many losses going forward. So I'm going to take this last chance, and I might play it safe from here on out. Next up, we got the Bears and the Giants. B, who you got?
This is a tough one, but I'm going to roll with the Giants just because it's in New York. I mean, Daniel Jones obviously isn't it. I watched that game against the Cowboys on Monday night, and he threw his last pass to Trayvon Diggs, typical Daniel Jones way to end the game, throwing an interception. But nevertheless, the Giants have been in every game this year. I think it's largely due to the new head coach. He's Brian Dable. He's bringing a winning attitude. Obviously, he helped develop Josh Allen. Like I said, I think Daniel Jones is a lost cause here, but I think he can have the team play better overall. And the Bears are obviously just kind of that lower mid team. I mean, obviously they beat the Niners at home, which is kind of impressive, but the Niners haven't really played well this year. And then they beat the Texans at home last week, who are a rebuilding team. They're pretty much like what the Lions were last year, in my opinion. So nothing really impressive by the Bears. So I don't expect them to start 3-1. That's why I'll go with the Giants here.
I'm going to go with the Giants as well. You can just tell they're better coached this year. They played the Cowboys tough. And honestly, the Giants have been a surprise to start this year, in my opinion. Nobody expected them to start 2-1. At least I know I definitely didn't. And I feel like they can start 3-1 here. This is another easy matchup versus the Bears. I feel like Saquon Barkley will have a very good game. And I just got the Giants winning. They're definitely an improved team.
While Daniel Jones is trash, Justin Fields has been trasher. I think Cordell Patterson, the funny stat I saw, Cordell Patterson has more rushing yards than Justin Fields has throwing right now. It's insane, actually, to think about. But, that offense has been very stagnant, very run-heavy. And the Giants actually have been a surprise this year. And looking at their schedule going forward, they have some pretty easy games. I mean, they have the Bears this week. The next couple of weeks after that are pretty hard with the Packers and the Ravens. But after that, it's pretty open for them. I mean, they got the Jaguars, the Seahawks, the Texans, the Lions, and, I mean, the Cowboys with Dak, so you never know. We'll probably lose that game. But so they have a pretty easy schedule like going forward. So, I mean, they could definitely make the playoffs or make a run or, anything like that. I'm not going to rule them out yet. I got the Giants. Next up, you got the Titans and the Colts. Another battle of mid. Looks like a trend this week. B, how you feeling about this one?
This is a really tough pick, but the last few years, the reason the Titans have won that division isn't because they're one of the best teams in the AFC. It's because they're the best team in the AFC South, and it's largely due to beating their competitors such as the Colts. I think they swept them last year in 2 close games. I know the Colts beat the Chiefs at home last week, but I feel like that's such a Colts type thing to beat a really good team only to lose to a division foe at home the next week. So I'm going to go with the Titans because I think, I just think they have their, ebbs and flows throughout the year. And I think they're on they found a little bit of themselves last week. Derrick Henry looked somewhat like himself last week. And I think they're just going to try to continue their swagger that they kind of have right now. And I think the Colts aren't obviously a formidable opponent, so I think they'll be able to squeak by. I'll give them like a 3-point win.
I'm actually going to go with the Colts this week. They've been all over the place this year to start. They've tied, they've lost, they've won a game. So, I mean, nobody really knows where they're going to go next, but I feel like that win against the Chiefs last week gave them some really good momentum. And I like the Colts in this one. I just think they're going to start catching their rhythm after this one and become that team a lot of people had the expectations for them to be. So I think they'll kind of start to right the ship here and beat the Titans and get back on track.
I'm going to have to agree with Donna on this one. Just a side note, the AFC South is horrid. Texans, Titans, Colts, and Jags. I mean, the Jags actually look pretty good, but those other 3 teams are trash.
It's kind of like the NFC East, but they're playing each other this year. So.
Too far. Don't talk about my team, bro. That's disrespectful. I'm not going to do that. I'm not here to do jabs with you. All right, it's not a 1v1. I'm going to rock with the Colts here. All right, the Colts are 1-1-1. The Titans are 1-2. So officially, with that loss, they have a worse record than the Colts. And this is actually, I like to talk about mid quarterbacks and stuff like that on the show. This is Tannehill versus this version of Matt Ryan. So this is honestly a battle of the running back. And who has looked better so far between Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor? I don't know. It's a toss-up. And that's why the game's a toss-up. But I'm going to rock with the Colts. I think that they ultimately have the better team here. I'm going to rock with the Colts. Next up, the Chargers and the Texans. I don't think this one should take long.
I was gonna say that, but the Chargers looked really bad last week against Jacksonville. And remember, last year they lost on the road to the Texans too, and I think we said that exact same thing. This ain't going to take long to pick, but probably not going to lose them 2 years in a row on the road. I mean, Chargers, I mean, they got to make the playoffs this year. Their coach is going to be so far gone, he probably won't even be allowed back on the West Coast, honestly. Like that would be embarrassing to miss the playoffs with the loaded team they have. Brandon Staley, this is a must-win for you. Like, get this win. I got the Chargers.
Yeah, I got the Chargers as well. The Texans, they've competed in every game they played, and they've been tough, a tough out for a lot of people. But the Chargers got embarrassed by the Jaguars at home last week. I think it's going to be a huge bounce back game, and I think Keenan Allen should be back as well. So definitely a bounce back game for the Chargers here this week.
Not much to talk about here. Got the Chargers. Next up, Browns and the Falcons.
I got the Browns. Probably should be a boring game. Nick Chubb will have a few good runs, but the Browns are the better team. I got the Browns.
Okay.
Is Myles Garrett playing?
No, I doubt it. I mean, he's not officially ruled out yet. It's a possibility, but I doubt he plays.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean,
I might actually take the Falcons in this one. They've been very solid to start this year out. The two losses they have versus the Saints, they just let up a late lead in typical Falcons fashion, and then versus the Rams, they fought all the way until the end, and then they looked good and beat the Seahawks last week. So back at home, I like them against Cleveland. If Myles Garrett plays, I do not like the Falcons as much as I once did, but I'm gonna go with the Falcons for this week.
I'm rocking with the Browns here. I'm praying Dono gets an L on this one so I can start to come up to the rankings. All right. So next up, we got the ever so famous matchup of the Commanders and the Cowboys. B, unfortunately, you got to go last on this one. I hate to do that to you.
Oh yeah. You guys got it.
Dono, you can start, man.
Man, this is almost like a season-defining game. I know it's very early, it's week 4, but these last two performances we've seen from Washington just haven't been great. 0 points in the first half in both games, and they were down 24 both games at the half as well to the Lions and then to the Eagles. So it hasn't been great. A lot of people are calling for Ron Rivera's job. They just don't see the belief in him anymore. Honestly, I'm one of those people, but
I knew it. That's why I started laughing. I was like, who are these people?
I feel like with Dak Prescott out, this is just one of those games, Washington, you just can't lose. And then you're hyping up your new black uniforms you want to wear. This is just – I'm going to reluctantly take Washington, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper Rush gets it done again. But this is almost a season-defining game for the Commanders. So I like the Commanders to win this one in a very, very close game. 3 points, by 3 points max.
All righty. I'm going to be as unbiased as I can here. I have the Cowboys, and this is why. The Commanders last year, they had a very strong defense. And even though, your quarterback wasn't great, you had something that you could just hang your hat on. You had defense at the end of the day. This year, you don't really have either. You don't have offense or defense that's really anything stellar. So it's like you're kind of mid to subpar in both kind of places, and you have really no strength. While the Cowboys, their offense has been horrid, which I was expecting coming into the season, but their defense looks great. Their defense looks like a top 5 defense. Honestly, they've held Tom Brady to 19 points. Trying to remember who we played last week. Who did we play last week?
There's Bengals week 2 and Giants week 3, 17 and 16.
That's what it was. Yeah, I didn't really watch too much of that game. I figured we were going to win. But yeah, and then the Giants, we look pretty good against them as well. I mean, it's the Giants, but I mean, the defense looked pretty good since the offense is like kind of non-existent. So I'm going to rock with the Cowboys here because they do have a strong defense, and I think if the Commanders have anything strong, it's their offense. But I think our defense can overthrow your offense because we have a man named Michael Parsons, and our defensive line looks really good so far as well. So even though we've had a lot of injuries, so yeah, I'm gonna rock with Cowboys. Next, we got the Jaguars and the Eagles.
Pick that last time. B ain't pick that last time.
Now, yeah, so I guess about the Commanders versus Cowboys NFC East matchup. It's probably going to live up to the hype. It's probably going to be a decent game, I think. However, the thing that makes the biggest difference for me is there's always drama in Dallas, and how could there not be drama, or how could there be as much drama if the Commanders win this game? Because if the Cowboys win this game, the drama extends about, is there possibly a quarterback controversy? And just knowing Dallas, that's going to be a topic for a longer period of time this year. Dak's already talking about how he wants to play against the Rams next week when initially his injury was supposed to take 6 to 8 weeks to recover from. So Dak's probably like rushing right now because he's a little worried about his job security right now. And it just so reminds me of when Tony Romo got hurt and Dak started winning all those games when he went in and they ended up giving the job to Dak. Now, I don't know if they can do that based on how much money they're giving Dak right now, and Dak is still young. But I think Cooper Rush gives him a reason to consider because he's played pretty well so far and hasn't lost as a starter yet in this league. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to beat him like they beat him last year. Probably a little closer than that. But like you said, Mitch, the biggest difference is they have Micah Parsons, who I don't know. Did he really play with the flu last week, or was it just a cold? I don't even remember. But they were hyping that up like it was a Jordan game or something. But I guess he played well. He plays well in every game. So there's not really someone on the Commanders that just plays well every single game like that. So I think that's a difference maker potentially, and that's why I'm going to go with the Cowboys. Other than the fact that they're the home team and they always are a dramatic team, and dramatic things happen when you have a quarterback controversy. So I'll go with Dallas.
Absolutely. I like that pick, B. Next up, you got the Jags and the Eagles, two of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. B, who you got?
AFC South versus NFC East. Usually the battle of the number 4 seeds or the potential number 4 seeds here. But like you said, both these teams look really good this year. So it could be a really good game. Also, Doug Peterson's returned to the Eagles for the first time since he was fired. Looks like he's doing to Jacksonville what he did in Philadelphia his second year there, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. Now, I don't know if they can win the Super Bowl in Jacksonville this year because there's too many contenders in the AFC. But sophomore year, Trevor Lawrence is looking like a lot like sophomore year Carson Wentz right now. Obviously, we all knew he was going to have a big step up from year 1 to year 2 because he actually has a coach who cares this year. But and I actually think they're going to compete with the Eagles for 4 quarters, but I think the Eagles are going to squeak by. I think it's going to be their toughest game of the year. To be honest with you guys, I don't – as much hype as the Eagles have right now for being 3-0, and yes, they've played well, I don't think their opponents are necessarily, teams you give the Eagles a lot of credit for beating. I mean, I think before the year started, you look at their schedule, and it's Lions, Vikings. That's probably their toughest one out of the 3, and then Commanders. I think everyone thinks they're at least going to be 2-1 after 3 games. So maybe they just exceeded expectations by a little bit. But nevertheless, I have them going 4-0 just because I think they are a slightly better team than Jacksonville, and they're at home. So I got the Eagles.
Yeah, I like the Eagles at home, but I definitely agree with your point. It's going to be a close game. The Jaguars are clearly a very improved team. Their defense has actually been a surprise to me. They've been playing tough defense. They're flying around the field. Their number 1 pick, Javon Walker, has just been outstanding. Amazing. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So it's really impressive to see the Jaguars turning around, and then Doug Peterson's return. I'm sure they'll play very hard for their coach. So it'll be a close game, but I like the Eagles to pull it out in the end.
Well, while the Jaguars have been better than expected, I had the Eagles winning the NFC East, and it looks like they might do that by a mile. So I am rocking with the Eagles. I have any signs that they are not one of the best teams in the NFL. So until I see that, I will definitely be picking them for the majority of their games. Also, going forward with their schedule, I think it was Donna that brought up their schedule. They may win 13 games. Probably barring, a few upsets in there, I'll probably give them some room for maybe like 12, 11 games, but that's pretty much improved for the Eagles. So they definitely have a bright future ahead. Next, we have a big game here. This is going to be a slugfest. I definitely can't wait to watch this one personally. Bills, Ravens, B, who you got?
Dude, this gonna be a great game. We got, I'd say, it's only been 3 weeks of football, so I don't want to get too hype on it yet. But the 2 leading contenders for MVP, possibly with Lamar and Josh Allen, both of them have been balling since week 1 this year, and they're both 5th-year quarterbacks looking for a ring to add to their resumes. And obviously, both 2 of the biggest superstars in the league right now. I'm going to go with the Bills because, 1, I think they have the better defense, and 2, I don't think they're going to lose 2 games in a row. I just think, they feel some urgency. I know the Ravens would drop to 2-2, so they should feel some urgency heading into this game as well. However, I think, like I said, the Bills are the better overall team. I think I trust them more on both sides of the ball, honestly. I know the Ravens can run the ball a little bit better, but I think the Bills can pass the ball a little bit better. And I think difference makers like Von Miller and players on the Bills D-line, even though they're an injured defense right now, up in crucial moments to where I can't see the Ravens defense showing up at this point. I think they're a little too young, and I think and inexperienced. And I think Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, the likes of those players, will take advantage of that. That's why I'm going with the Bills.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a tough game. Two MVP candidates. Lamar has been playing outstanding football to start this season. But the weakness for the Ravens, which has actually been a surprise to me, has been their defense. Normally, the Ravens, as we know them, they always play very tough defense. They're normally a top 5 to top 10 defense year in and year out. And this year, they haven't really been as great as I expected them to be. I was surprised to see the Patriots put up 26 points on them last week. But I think this would be a great game. I believe it's supposed to rain, so if weather does play a factor, I believe the Ravens ground game could keep it close. It'll be a close game regardless. But I think Buffalo will win this one in a close one. They're just a better team here, more complete.
Definitely going with the Bills. I think you guys both touched on it. They are the more team, and that's just why I'm going to go with them. Lamar's been great this season, though, and barring any injury, I think he might have a really good chance for MVP. But they have to stay. They have to keep winning games. So, but I don't have them winning this game. So they got to win other games. The Panthers and the Cardinals. I will be live Fox 5 for this one this weekend on Sunday. B, who you got?
This is such a confusing game to pick because you don't know which team is going to show up for either of these teams. Obviously, Kyler Murray is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield, but it's like, what about the rest of the Cardinals? Who's going to show up? The Panthers showed some life last week, and obviously, I feel like both these coaches are on the hot seat, especially Matt Rule, the Panthers coach. I think he might not make it through the season if they lose too many games at the beginning. Cliff Kingsbury, on the other hand, he'll obviously make it through the whole season, but if they are the same old Cardinals, I don't know how they can keep them. But I'm gonna go with the Panthers. I can't really give you a good reason why. I just think the Panthers are gonna win this game. I think the Cardinals are gonna fail. I think they're just gonna not show up, which is very Cardinal-like.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have a terrible season, but I think they'll have bumps and bruises at the beginning, like they've already shown. They really didn't look like they showed up against the Rams last week, even though I think we all expected the Rams to win that game. But it's like it was a piss poor effort as well. So I mean, I don't think they're a well coached enough team to be reliable to show up. And obviously, I don't think that about the Panthers either. But in wild situations, scenarios like that, the worst team could win for whatever reason. That's why I got the Panthers.
That's crazy. I mean, it'll be a close game because these are, like you said, two teams. You never know what you're going to get from them. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals here. Kyler Murray is clearly the better quarterback. And Baker, you don't know what you're going to get from that guy week in and week out. And then McCaffrey might not be playing on top of that. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals this week.
I'm definitely going with the Cardinals. B brought up last week's win against the Saints. Like I said, the Saints were horrible. If you watch that game, the Saints were trash. Like, that was definitely way more about the Saints not being good than the Panthers being good. So I don't really give them that win. I also hate Baker Mayfield, so I'm very biased. I am rocking with the Cardinals. I will never pick Baker Mayfield and the Panthers to win a game for the rest of the season. Now, we have the Broncos and the Raiders. The Broncos, both teams look at a little kickstart to their season, as their seasons have not looked great so far, especially the Raiders, though, because they are 0-3. B, how you feel about this game?
It's completely true what you just said, Mitch. However, for some reason, the Broncos are 2-1 out of this whole disaster that they've looked so far. I mean, obviously, they lost the tough game with Russell Wilson's return to Seattle in Week 1, but then they beat the Texans, who are, like I just kind of said, they're like last year's Lions. They're competing, but they're not winning. And then they beat the 49ers strictly due to the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo looked as bad as maybe us three would have looked at quarterback in that game. I'll get to the Niners later when they show up, but they literally won that game because Jimmy Garoppolo was terrible. So, I mean, and Russell Wilson put together one good drive where he looked like classic Russell Wilson, but other than that, kind of looked like trash. I'm going to go with the Raiders because even though they're 0-3, they've consistently scored more points than the Broncos in all their games. Obviously, I think the Broncos have a better defense, but the Raiders built way too talented of a team to start the year 0-4. And, like, I mean, they couldn't make a coaching change 4 games into Josh McDaniel's tenure, but it's already a big enough disaster. They got to get one win in the first month of the season. I mean, this is just ridiculous. They should be able to score enough points to beat the Broncos, who don't look like they have it together on offense yet. But if the Broncos win, I mean, it's just a lost season for the Raiders, and the Broncos somehow be 3-1. I can't really see that based on how they're playing right now. But Raiders are you can already mark on your boards as the most disappointing team of the year if they start 0-4. But I don't think it will happen.
Yeah, the Raiders have been underwhelming. Just to start out, I think I've picked the Raiders every week, and every week they've lost up until this point. So it's definitely tough to take the Raiders in this one, but the Broncos, like you said, have been a bit underwhelming, but they still been finding ways to win. Kudos to them. I feel like they're still trying to like work it out and still figure things out with Russ under center, but this is the last time I'll take the Raiders. I feel like it's not like you said, with all the talent they have, to start 0-4 would just be ridiculous.
That win something, yeah.
So I'll go with the Raiders as well. Oh, I gotta grab my laptop charger.
I thought it was funny that Dono said that the Raiders are just, they're not really doing their thing and things like that, and they're really not. I mean, they look horrible. They're 0-3, and Broncos definitely do not look much better. I can't believe that the Broncos won last week. Again, that was an indictment on Jimmy G and how bad he played. But yeah, I think the Raiders have to win this week. I think that like, to avoid, being the most disappointing team, like, to start the season so far, like, the Raiders cannot lose this game. I can definitely see the Broncos going 2-2 more than I see them going 3-1. So, yeah, great point you made there, B. I'm rocking with the Raiders, and I like that Donald said he also picked the Raiders every week so far, because I'm pretty sure I have too, and I am I'm losing by a lot. So it's like they're not really helping me in that effort. I'm gonna rock with them for one more week, like I'm rocking with Russell Wilson for one in fantasy. But I did pick up Carson Wentz as his backup because he has been horrible.
Hey, you guys have a lot of courage for admitting that. I don't know if I would have done the same thing had I picked the Raiders every week, but kudos to you guys for that.
Oh man, let's go with the Patriots and the Packers next. I think that this one should be
best.
Yeah,
Mac Jones isn't playing also, just to remind you. So I think we all got the Packers here.
All right, cool. Next game. This is the battle of the GOAT. This is Tom Brady, the official. This is Patrick Mahomes, the potential GOAT. So, B, talk to me.
All I remember is that these teams played in the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago, and Mitch was the only one to pick the Bucs. I don't know if he's going to do the same thing here, but it's at Tampa. Obviously, tough week in Florida this week, especially in the Tampa area. They said the game's going to be in Tampa still, so I think the Bucs are playing for a lot. Also, both these teams had a disappointing loss last week, so we can expect both of them to have at least, upper mediocre games on offense. I think that they were both disgusted with the lack of offense they showed last week. But I don't think Brady's ready to pass the torch to Patrick Mahomes quite yet. I'm gonna pick the Bucs. I think it's a little bit more of a must win for them, just because, especially if the Raiders end up winning at 425, because I think the Bucs, need to show that they still have some offense. Their offense has not looked good in any games this year. It really has been their defense that has won them games. And when they beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, both sides of the ball really showed up hard. Obviously, they're a little bit different of teams, but the main core still. I just think the Bucs are playing for a little bit more, and that's why I got the Bucs.
This will definitely be a very great game. I think Mike Evans is back from suspension.
That
I don't know if Julio or Chris Godwin are back for this game, but I think I'm gonna go with the Chiefs in this one. Actually, the Bucs offensively are still, it seems like, going through the motions a little bit. They're defensively, they're just looking outstanding, but I feel like their defense may tire out. And the Chiefs coming off a loss, I think they'll have a bounce back week here. And since it's the regular season, I'll take the Chiefs. But if it was the playoffs, then it'll be the other way around. But I'm definitely going with the Chiefs in this one.
Donald, you made this difficult by saying that regular season playoff part. I picked the Bucs last time, as been brought up, and it was 31-9 in the Super Bowl. You don't bet against Brady. And I'm gonna take that exact same saying, and I'm gonna apply it to this week. All right, Tom Brady win the game. The Bucks, while not having a lot of their receiving core, a lot of their line either, they've found ways to win games, and especially against they had a big win against the Saints, a team Tom Brady was having a lot of issues with beating as soon as he got on the Bucks. So, and then the Chiefs, they are coming off a loss, but I also did say that where teams where they play that have really good defenses. Patrick Mahomes is going to have to get the ball out a little faster, and then I don't know if he has that rapport with the receivers yet. And I think we saw a little bit of that when they lost to the Colts that one week. I can't remember yet. So I'm going to pick the Bucks. I don't think that any of the Chiefs' issues are going to go away, and I think that it'll just be more exposed. The more great defenses that they play. So rocking with the Bucks. Last but not least, Bennett talked about it just a little bit ago. Jimmy G, the 49ers are playing the Rams. So who you got, B?
Well, Mitch, you just kind of touched on how the Brady's kryptonite used to be until week 2, the Saints. The Rams, other than beating the Niners in the championship game last year, that's kind of been their kryptonite. They haven't been able to beat the Niners. Jimmy G has actually had some of his best games against the Rams. Well, let's just talk about Jimmy Garoppolo for a second. How he looks so unprepared for that game. I mean, someone like him of his stature, I know he's not viewed as a great quarterback, but you know how we all kind of concluded that he was going to get the job at some point for the year. Like, he did not look prepared. And I understand he had the shoulder surgery. I understand during the offseason they didn't let him practice with the team because they figured they were going to trade him. So he didn't really get reps with the first team. But it's like, that's been your job for the last 5 years with the Niners, even though you've gotten injured all but one of them. But this man literally dropped back, did a Dan Orlovsky, stepped out of the end zone, and got called for a safety. And in reality, they should be happy he stepped out of the end zone because he actually threw the ball after he stepped out of the end zone, and it was a pick six. But it wasn't a pick six because he stepped out of the end zone for a safety. Then that play kind of epitomizes what a piss poor effort he had that night and how he was totally unprepared, looked out of whack. He had 2 good completions the entire night. He literally looked like he did not belong in the NFL. However, one thing I've learned about Jimmy Garoppolo is the moment you count him out is the moment he bites back and actually shows he might belong in the NFL for a little bit longer. And they usually do it against a team like the Rams. So I'm going to pick the Niners, as wild as it is. I think they're going to beat the Rams. They have their number for whatever reason. I love the Shanahan-McVay matchup. They're both the ultimate schemers on offense, probably have the biggest playbooks in the NFL. I think the Niners will get Debo going. I think they'll get Kittle going since it's the second week back from injury. They'll be at home in front of their fans in sort of a must-win scenario for them. I know it's this early in the season, but you can't start 1-3. Give me the Niners.
This is definitely going to be a tough game. Losing Trent Williams is a huge loss for the 49ers. He's probably the best offensive tackle in the game. That changes their run game a little bit. And that's Jimmy Garoppolo's blindside protection right there. So no Trent Williams definitely changes things a bit for me, but I agree with your point. Monday night, it's hard to see the Niners going 1-3 to start the season. And with the way Stafford's been struggling and the Niners defense, I like the 49ers in this one as well.
I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to go a different way here. I'm rocking with the Rams. It feels like every time I watch a Rams game, Cooper Kupp is just ridiculous. There's just no answer for that man. Every time I watch, he gets nothing but I feel like every time the ball's thrown and it's out of frame, it comes back in frame and it's Cooper Kupp. It's insane every time. So I'm rocking with the Rams this week. I think the Rams have a lot to prove. I think, as you said, Stafford hasn't been looking too good so far. So I think that they're going to get back on track by beating a solid team here in the Niners. And also to speak on that Jimmy G point that Bennett was talking about, I'm going to give Jimmy G a little bit of grace for that last week performance, just because he wasn't really given a playbook going into the year this year. They were fully expecting Trey Lance to be the starter, and so was Jimmy G. So, I'm sure he wasn't really studying as much. He's like, I'm just going to be out here and hopefully I get traded at some point or something like that. But I think he was just kind of thrusted out there, and I wasn't really ready for that. And he didn't look prepared because he wasn't prepared. So I'm going to rock with the Rams this week, and, hopefully the 49ers can get it going, and hopefully Kittle gets a touchdown because he's on my fantasy team. But that is going to do it for this episode of the God Next podcast, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let us know how you feel about our Week 4 picks, and we will catch y'all next week. Have a good week.